गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. We are in Jnaneshwari, chapter 18, Moksha Sannyasa Yoga, and here we are in the introduction by Jnaneshwar Maharaj, and we completed from OV 1 to 20. Now today we will start the 21st OV. And what is going on here? Jnaneshwar Maharaj is expressing his inability to put into words the gratitude, the grace that he is experiencing within himself. This type of, that is why this Gita by Jnaneshwar Maharaj is called Bhavartha Deepika. It is not a commentary and intellectual exercise like the Upanishads. We are seeing the Shankar Bhashya. Adi Shankaracharya has given a commentary on Bhagavad Gita also in Sanskrit. But it is analysis of every word so that we get the correct meaning of every verse, every word in the right context of the total Bhagavad Gita, of the chapter, in the scheme of the chapters, in the scheme of the verses, and within the verse. But here, Jnaneshwar Maharaj, his approach is totally Bhavatmak. Bhavatmak, what is Bhavatmak? Bhavatmak is where the mind and intellect, they both converge. The mind is feeling but is not able to express, and the intellect is trying to conceptualize it in words but is not able to do it. And this bhav, this feeling, is being expressed by Jnaneshwar Maharaj in these verses. Therefore, here towards the 18th, 19th, he says, if I were to give up my body consciousness and praise your qualities, it will mean that I am making a distinction between the qualities and the qualified. But O Guru Maharaj, you are one without a second. How can I create two where there is one? And this is his inability. It will mean that I am making a distinction between the qualities and the qualified. But you are a single entity, so how can I make any distinctions? It is a sin. It is blasphemy to imagine two in the one. It is a sin for a man to consider he is a man, he is a husband, he is a father. It's a sin. Then what he should do? He should play that game, but always consider that he is the unifying man. Man is not troubled by any relations. The husband is troubled by the relation. The father is, the man as father is troubled because of the kids. Man as husband is troubled because of the wife. Man as son is troubled because of the parents. Man as employee is troubled because of the employer, and so on. Man is not troubled because man is one. On him all the roles are being imagined. Same way, Jnaneshwar Maharaj is saying, "O Guru Maharaj, you are that one single entity, Ekameva Dvitiya, Neha Nanaste Kinchana. There is nothing else apart from you. So if I say that you have this quality, then you and the quality will become separate. I can't commit that sin. That is not acceptable. Is it not better to keep the pearl intact instead of cutting it into two parts and then joining it?" You get a precious stone and you cut it into two, and then what? No, now I got two pieces. For doing what? Put it together again. That's stupid. Why don't you keep it together? Now with this background, you understand. We continue from the 21st OV. आणि बाप तू माय इही बोली ना स्तुती होय, डिंभोपाधिक आहे विटाळू तेथे, झी झाले न पायी के आले, ते गोसावी पण केवी बोले, ऐसे उपाधी उशिटले कार्यवर्णू, जरी आत्मा तू एकसरा, हेही म्हणता दातारा, तरी आंतुल तू बाहेरा घापतासी, म्हणवनी सत्यची तुझ लागी, स्तुती न देखो जी जगी, मौना वाचून लेणे अंगी सुसीनामा, स्तुती काही न बोलणे, पूजा काही न करणे, सन्निधी काही न होणे तुझ्या ठाई. He says, to call you the parent of the world is not to praise you, because it would mean that I defile you by ascribing to you the attribute of possessing me as your child. So again what will happen? You are the mother, I am the child. So again duality I am introducing. It's a no. So I can't even say that. I could call myself a servant, but how can I falsely attribute proprietorship to you? Then you are the Lord and I am the servant. Again there is duality. So basically Jnaneshwar Maharaj, by giving all these examples, is coming to an wit's end, to that he is unable to express the bhav of gratitude, grace, surrender that he is feeling within his bosom. How can I describe you in a form which is defiled by conditioning factors? How can I describe you by a form? Form is only possible where there is desh kala vastu. Mother is there only because of a child. And the other one here? Mother is because of a child. Servant is only because there is a Lord. So calling, as our Jnaneshwar Maharaj in Amrut Anubhav says, he says calling Paramatma, that Brahman, that Paramashiva there in that Amrut Anubhav, Paramashiva is taken as the Brahman, Paramatma. That Paramashiva, if he is called as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, it is an abuse to the reality. See, to this extent the masters go. Because the rule is Yato Vacho Nivartante Aprapya Manasasaha. That truth is that, reality is that, which cannot be illuminated or illumined by the words, cannot be grasped by the mind. See? So how can I describe you in a form which is defiled by conditioning factors? All conditionings are limited. All conditionings are finite. All conditionings are temporary. All conditionings are ephemeral. all conditionings are existing in their own absence. I'll put one more word to it. All conditionings are relative in their nature. So that which is relative, that which is changing, how can it define the infinite? How can the wave define the infinite magnitude of the waters, or even the ocean for that matter? Impossible. How can the earth, water, fire, air describe the space which is giving them accommodation? They don't have any idea what infinity means. Similarly, Jnaneshwar Maharaj is saying here that how can I describe you in a form? Form has shape, form has contours, form has dimensions, and all these are due to conditioning of time, space and objectivity. And that will be an abuse to him. O Master, if I call you indiscriminately as the self, it would mean that I am expelling you from my interior. If I give you a name called the self, if I call you indiscriminately as the self, it would mean that I am expelling you from my interior. See? You know, this you understand. We are in the 18th chapter. If our understanding is clear, then alone the name can take us to the threshold of the sanctum sanctorum. But if our attention is on the form, then Ram will take us to Saket. Then Krishna will take us to Vaikuntha. The name Shiva will take us to Kailash. But if we are clear that these names are merely the support, and the goal to reach is not outside, the goal to reach is not some form, the goal to reach is that one which is within and without. So if I take it only as within, and what is within? Self. What is without? Brahman. If I say it is self, where is the idea of self coming? In our mind. So that means we have expelled that reality, that pure consciousness, and put it into words. The moment you put it into words without realizing what that word is indicating, we have lost the plot. And that is what is Jnaneshwar Maharaj telling here, that without discrimination, if I call you without discrimination as the self, indiscriminately without discrimination. And what is discrimination? What is Vivek? Vivek is not should I eat Chinese or should I eat tandoori? No. Discrimination is not I like summers better than winters. Discrimination is not I like inside better than outside or outside better than inside. No. Then what is discrimination? Discrimination is only between the real and the unreal, between the changeless and the changing. And this is what I was telling you before. Any name of God you take, it's okay. It can deliver you only if your attention is on the changeless while you are chanting the name which is changing. See? For that It may be Om you are chanting, it may be Krishna you are chanting, it may be Ram you are chanting, but the mantra is coming and going, coming and going, coming and going. But you are the changeless. You are not coming and going, you are stationary. And when you come to this recognition that you are ever present, that you are always, and this is not a thought, this is a direct experience, aparoksha anubhuti. This aparoksha anubhuti is the result of this discrimination, viveka. Vivek Chudamani we saw, Vivek, Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti and Mumukshutvam. This Vivek. And if without Vivek we are talking about the self, that means I am not accepting what that word self is indicating, meaning I am only objectively pursuing the self rather than recognizing, realizing that I am of the nature of self. And I am of the nature of self is realized without a thought. Because you are always that. You are always that. The Jivatma, the individual, can never realize the self. My God, we studied the whole Bhagavad Gita and this chapter is Moksha Sannyas Yoga, and you are saying you can never realize the self. Yes, you can never realize the self. This is the unique vision given by Vedanta only. Only the Upanishads give this vision. What is the premise? What is the understanding of the Vedanta? That everyone is already the self. They have just forgotten it. Without the self, nothing can be. Self is. All that is the problem is a defective vision. Defective mind, or a mind with error. Error is the thought. And when we say error is the thought, does not mean that you have to remove the thoughts from your mind. Means do not be disturbed by the thoughts, do not be influenced by the thoughts, do not be carried away by the thoughts. Let them do their job. You remain with you be yourself. That's it. Anyway, that will come in the chapter as we go along. For this reason, I see no scope to praise you in this world. See? For this reason, I see no scope to praise you in this world, or to decorate you with any ornament other than silence. Ah, how beautiful. Other than silence. मौना वाचूनी लेणे आंगी सुसीनामा. Dakshinamurti Stotram also says the same thing. Maunam vyakhyat prakatita parabrahma yuvanam. Maunam vyakhyat. It's eloquent silence. It's a contradictory statement. Eloquent silence. But that's how it is. Truth is available in the contradictions. It's not a straight line and you get there. Nope. So I see no scope to praise you in this world or to decorate you with any ornament other than silence. People used to come in the presence of Ramana Maharishi, sit there for a few hours, 1 day, 2 days, and their questions used to get answered without Ramana Maharishi uttering even one single word. This seems fantastic for us. Oh, how is that possible? Because we have not come across such a master. We are full of ourselves. I will study Bhagavad Gita myself. I want to learn Sanskrit so that I can read Bhagavad Gita and come to my meaning of Bhagavad Gita. Stupid. It's all for such people, it is only a ego trip. I don't want anyone else's interpretation. But Shastras say Shravanam Mananam Nididhyasanam. They don't say Pathanam Mananam Nididhyasanam. They say Shravanam. So in the first step itself, we are going against the Shastras in the name of spirituality. But it's a ego trip. Therefore, Jnaneshwar Maharaj says, therefore to say nothing constitutes your praise. To do nothing is your worship, and to associate with you is to negate one's personality by getting merged in you. Remember one example he gave, the lotus, when the first rays of the sun grace the lotus blooms. The moment we come in the presence of a master, when we come into the presence of the Guru Maharaj within our heart, the Guru Tattva within our heart, that very moment, the individuality dissolves. The moment waker comes face to face with the sleep, by thinking about sleep, the waker dissolves. Your experience every day. Same way. Same way. He in whose presence our individuality, our sense of uniqueness, that I am a person, I am Tismar Khan, I am born here, I am body, I am this, all that dissolves away. All sense of identity dissolves away. That is the best prostration, that is the best salutation. So therefore, nothing constitutes your praise. Every word is every word is an abuse to the Guru Maharaj, to the Guru Tattva. To do something as a worship is going away from the Lord. Here he says, to do nothing is the worship. Because if I give you a form, then I am conditioning you. He already qualified that. How can I qualify you with the conditionings of space-time and of objectivity? What a exalted state Jnaneshwar Maharaj is in when he is putting these words down or speaking them in front of the people. And to associate with you is to negate one's personality by getting merged in you. This is what Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyanti Para, if done with subjective approach, brings about. But if it is, your attention is only on Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyanti Para, if your attention is to go beyond, oh, I think I'm in Vaikhari. No, I have transcended Vaikhari. Now I'm in Madhyama. Oh, I have transcended Madhyama. Now I'm in Pashyanti. Oh, I have transcended. I didn't go to sleep, so I must be in Para. If your attention is on Para, you are in meditation. You are in Samadhi. That is not the end game. Then you have created an event called samadhi. You enter into samadhi, you come out of samadhi. What is the goal? You are the goal. All that was a way to recognize that you are the constant principle in essence. And this is where sometimes I spent many hours breaking my head in trying to understand what is subjective and objective. So what is the subjective principle? You are the subjective principle. You are the essence. That is the subject. This subject does not come and go. If you consider yourself to be a man, one day he will die. So it cannot be the subject. If you consider yourself to be a husband or wife or brother or sister, these roles come and go, so they cannot be the subject. Subject has to necessarily be the unchanging constant common denominator, and that I am, in spite of everything going on. Recognize yourself. From 26th OV onwards, तरी जिंतले जैसे भुली पिसे आलाप उघाली तैसे वानु ते माऊली उपसाहावे तुवा आता गीतार्थाची मुक्त मुदी लावी माझी ये वाग्वृद्धी जे माने हे सभासदी संजनांच्या तेत म्हणितले श्रीनिवृत्ती नको हे पुढत पुढती परिसीलोहा घृष्टिकिती वेळ वेळा कीजेगा. So till here the thought concludes. What does he say? Like the chatter of an infatuated person, is this my praise of you, O Nivrittinatha, O my Guru Maharaj? When a person has seen a wonderful movie which has grabbed his or her imagination, they keep they'll keep talking about that movie. They can't stop. I went to someone's house the other day, and that young girl, she had a doll, and she was telling me so many things about that doll, continuously, non-stop, infatuated with the doll. Today I went to someone's house. Someone was infatuated with his dream. Swamiji, I see snakes in my dream. So they talk about that. You only talk about that with which you are infatuated. So at a drop of a hat, if you are talking about your kids, you are talking about your wife, you are talking about your husband, you are talking about your work. Some people are so infatuated with their own ill health, they only keep talking about their ill health. Like we keep talking about our beard, how it has changed different shades and it is becoming whiter and whiter. Infatuation. Parents are infatuated with their children as if other children don't grow. They are also doing the same thing. We see so many kids, every stage of their growth, we know this is what the child is going to go through. But for parents, oh my God, my child is speaking. Oh my God, my child's tooth is coming. Oh my God, my child is walking. Oh my God, oh, look, photo after photo after photo, and they keep sending it to me. What will I do with all this? But you have to say, wonderful. It's the story of every kid. But they are infatuated. My kid. So same way, Jnaneshwar Maharaj infatuated with his Guru Maharaj. My Guru Maharaj. Like the chatter of an infatuate person, is this my praise of you? It seems that way, O Guru Maharaj, that I got infatuated by you, I am in love with you, and I am attached to you. So please bear it. So please bear it. O Master, patiently with a mother's love, now put your firm seal on my discourse on the Bhagavad Gita, so that it will be acceptable to the audience. Every chapter, Jnaneshwar Maharaj begins only after praying his salutations to his Guru Maharaj, and when the Guru Maharaj says, okay, start, then he starts. After his blessings alone he begins. Something the Guru Maharaj has to say. So he says, please give your sign of approval or say something so that I can start, and that it will be acceptable to the audience. Who is a Guru Maharaj? Who are we? We are not Guru Maharaj. We are Acharyas. We teach. And Acharya can be a Guru Maharaj also. So what is the difference between an Acharya and a Guru Maharaj? Acharya is he or she or a person who is able to communicate what is given in the scriptures in the prescribed manner to the two students while practicing it in his own life. Who is Guru Maharaj? Guru Maharaj is he or she who, while speaking, brings about a transformation in the person who is listening. See? That is Sadguru. This is the difference. So Acharya can be Acharya, but an Acharya can be a Sadguru also. Then Gajanan Maharaj, Adi Shankaracharya, Gondavle Maharaj, Satya Sai Baba, Shirdi Sai Baba, Nivritti Nath, of course, Raman Maharishi, Anand Mahima, and so many, Neem Karoli Baba, Heda Khan Baba. All these were Sadgurus. Because they say something, or they give a discourse, or they say something to the disciple or the student or the devotee, and transformation inside that person happens. Because they are established in that truth. Acharya may or may not be established in the truth. And therefore, Acharya is he who teaches, who has studied exhaustively the scriptures, he has understood the concepts, and he is living a life of equanimity, trying to put that knowledge in his or her life. See? So, Nivritti, then Shri, so that will be acceptable to the audience. If I say that I am speaking, then it's an ego trip. When it comes as the grace of the Guru Maharaj, see, when we go to Mahatmas, those who are addressing hundreds of people at a time, when one sentence is made or a lecture is given, say for 1 hour, majority of the people feel that that lecture was specifically meant for me. Every person feels that way. This is the impact that a Sadguru has. See, that everyone is connected. Everyone feels everything that was said by the master. How come master knew that this is my doubt? And he addressed it in this 1 hour talk. See. So Jnaneshwar Maharaj is saying, let the words that come out of me, let them be acceptable by the audience. Then with this statement, what do we understand? Jnaneshwar Maharaj is only the medium. The Guru Maharaj is speaking through Jnaneshwar Maharaj to the people who have come to listen. Guru Maharaj's vision is there is none other than him. So when he is speaking through the speaker, he is speaking to himself only. It will be acceptable. Then Sri Nivrittinath said, why do you need to say all this again and again? Every chapter he says this, something similar. He says, why do you have to say this all again and again? Is it necessary to rub the philosopher's stone with iron over and over again to turn it into gold? Is it necessary to put the switch on again and again in order to get the light? Once you switch it on, the light is on. Once you have rubbed the iron on the philosopher's stone, it turns into gold. You don't have to keep rubbing it. There is a learning for us here. This is what you and me are doing. What is that? We are again and again trying to understand what the self is. Again and again. Bhaiya, finish the game once and for all. And enjoy the rest of the journey of life. Rubbing the iron on the philosopher's stone again and again means continue regularly meditating on the self again and again, every day. Stupid. That's our stupidity. What are you doing today? Oh, I am meditating on myself. What are you doing today? I am going for 10 days meditation retreat. And after that, I will be living a frustrated existence. Then what will you do? Next year again I will go for a meditative retreat. This is our lot. This is our lot. एक बार फोकस करके खात्मा कर दो सब कुछ. It's like every day we go to sleep to experience bliss. Then we become frustrated during the day. Again we go to sleep the next day to experience the bliss. Again we get up in the morning and get frustrated. Again we enter into the sleep to experience the bliss. See the pattern that we are caught in. This is what it means, rubbing the iron on the philosopher's stone again and again. Now, Nivrittinath is saying, don't rub the iron, or do you need to rub the iron on the philosopher's stone again and again? No. Prepare your mind and dive into the self to recognize that you are the self. Story over once and for all. But we make sure we contemplate on the self without losing the body identification. We want to contemplate on the self without losing our love for our family. We want to contemplate on the self without losing all the wealth that we have created for ourselves. And therefore we are always falling short. Therefore, you have to again and again keep interacting with this knowledge. Why do you need to say all this again and again? Is it necessary to rub the philosopher's stone with iron over and over again to turn it into gold? On this, Jnanadeva said, see how beautifully. Jnanadeva understands all this, but it's the Vyavahar. He genuinely wants the grace of the Guru. Some words must come out of him. Okay, beta, now you begin. You're doing God's work, God will speak through you, something. So Jnanadeva says, I have received your grace, O Master. Now listen to the interpretation of the Gita which I am going to narrate. I have received your grace. What was his grace? One statement. Do you need to rub the iron on the philosopher's stone again and again? That sentence was the grace. जिसको समझ आ गया बढ़िया है, जो ना समझे वो अनाड़ी है. देखो इतनी हर every sentence, every word of Jnaneshwar Maharaj, every thought that he is presenting here, it's so deep. Now he says, where are we? In the 30th. Now 29th and 30th, from here the next topic begins. तव विनवी ज्ञान देवो म्हणे हो काजी पसावो करी अवधान देतु देवो ग्रंथा आता जी गीता रत्न प्रसादाचा कळसू अर्थ चिंतामणीचा सर्व गीता दर्शनाचा पाढवू जो. Now the Gita is a temple studded with jewels, of which this chapter is the very pinnacle, constructed with the philosopher's stones in the form of insights. It will instruct you in the interpretation of the Gita. Many times when we go to Badrinath, when we go to Kedarnath, when we go to Tirupati Balaji, from far away you can see the Gopuram. From far away you can see the bell hanging on the top of the top of the temple. Oh, Badrinath, Badri Vishal Bhagwan ki jai. From so far away, you are maybe 2-3 kilometers away, maybe 5 kilometers away. Just when you come up the hill, you turn around from around the lip of the mountain, and suddenly you can see the colorful gate of the Badrinath, and automatically Badri Vishal Bhagwan ki jai. You haven't seen the temple, you have not gone inside the temple, but merely looking at the top of the temple, the kumbh placed on the top of the temple, the flag flying high on the top of the Gopuram in some temples. Just by seeing that, you feel you have already reached. Isn't it? Same way. This, if you have not studied the rest of the chapters, not chapter, chapters, 1st to the 17th, if you sincerely, genuinely, by being available, listen to the discourse on this chapter, it is like the pinnacle. You are there. You are there. He says that same, what I just said, that thought is presented here. लोकी तरी आथी ऐसे जे दुरुनी कळसू दिसे आणि भेटीची हातवसे देवतेची तिये तैसेची एथही आहे जे एकेची येणे अध्याये आघवाची दृष्ट होये गीता गमुहा मी कळसू याची कारणे 18वा अध्यायो म्हणे उवाईला बादरायणे गीता प्रासादा नो हे कळसा परते काही प्रासादी काम नाही ते सांगतसे गीताही संपलेपणे व्यासू सहजे सूत्री बळी तेणे निगमरत्नाचळी उपनिषदार्थाची माळी माझी खांडिली. He says like where are we? There is a custom in this world that if you get a vision of the pinnacle from a distance, it is as good as seeing the deity in the temple. I just explained that. The same parallel holds here also. If you read carefully this chapter, you comprehend the whole teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. It is for this reason that I say that Ved Vyasa has composed this chapter as a pinnacle to the temple of the Gita. Just as after the erection of the pinnacle, no construction work remains to be done. This 18th chapter suggests that with it the Gita has come to an end. Sage Vyasa was a skillful artisan who excavated the mountain of gems in the form of the Vedas and formed rocky plains in the form of the Upanishads. So, little bit background. We know the scriptures that we know today. What are our source of scriptures? In Sanatana Dharma, the source of scriptures are the Vedas. They are called the Shrutis. The Shrutis are the Rug, Yajur, Sam and Atharvana Ved. These are the 4 Vedas. Then there is the Puranas, the 18 main Puranas and 18 sub Puranas. Then the Itihas, they are the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Itihas means as it happened. As it happened, it was penned down. Mahabharata was written, and when Mahabharata was written, all the characters of Mahabharata were still there, and Maharishi Vedvyas was putting down the whole thing, penning down the whole story. Valmiki Maharaj, sage Valmiki, he wrote the Ramayana while Ramchandraji was still there. It was not afterwards he wrote the stories, the Ramayana, no. While it was happening, as it happened. Itihas does not mean history. Etymologically, it means as it happened. Then the 4th category of scriptures in our is the words of the great realized masters. And Ved Vyasji was the 5,500 years ago when the Lord Krishna was there. Just as Lord Krishna is called as the Purna Avatar of the Lord Narayana, he alone came as Maharishi Vedvyas Badarayana. He is also known as Dvaipayana. He is also known as Parasharaputra. He is also called as Krishna Dvaipayana. His name is also Krishna. Dvaipayana because he was born on an island, on a dweep. So, Maharishi Vedvyas, he was the one who brought all the different streams of scriptures prevalent in those times and compiled them together as Vedas as we see it today. He only penned down all the Puranas. He only wrote down the Mahabharata. And when did he write Mahabharata? After he had already compiled all the Vedas. And in Vedas, how many Upanishads are there? There are many. We have studied only 9 or 10 of them. Main Upanishads are about 12 of them that are taught. The Chandogya and the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, they are very huge volumes. So in 2 years it was not possible to cover all of them completely. So we had to study it ourselves, which we have not done it till now. Only address the 9, 10, 11 hour. So one day we'll address that, we'll take that up also. But now each Upanishad, Kaivalya Upanishad, Ishavasya Upanishad, Keno Upanishad, Prashna Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, Aitreya Upanishad, Katho Upanishad, Shweta Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, so much. Some are succinct, some are direct, some are with stories. Chandogya Upanishad and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, so many stories. Again, when you listen to the stories, somewhere the truth is called as Pran, another place the truth is called as Purusha, somewhere it is called as Brahman, somewhere it is called. You need someone who has gone through all this, like Adi Shankaracharya, who has got that vision, because he is Avatar Purush. Therefore, we don't bring our head, put our head into it. We just read and decipher, narrate what he has said, as we are doing in Ishavasya Upanishad. The Moola commentary, the original commentary, the basic commentary on the verses are by Adi Shankaracharya. Having stated the meaning of that verse, then a little bit of expansion for our understanding, without losing the meaning of that, what Adi Shankaracharya is trying to express. We put in a bit of examples and this and that, and that's basically it. There is also Paddhiti to it, which Adi Shankaracharya has. And because there are so many contradictions within the Upanishads, those contradictions are addressed in the Brahma Sutras. See? For whom are the contradictions? For the intellectuals. You take one and finish the story. No, but we want to study, second time we want to study Amrit Anubhav, we want to study Gita all over again, we want to study the Vivek Chudamani again and again, Panchadashi again and again. Why? Rubbing the iron over the philosopher's stone. See? It hasn't clicked yet. That's why we keep going. That same Maharishi Vedvyas understood, out of his deep compassion for humanity. That was his role. That is why he did all this. He took the essence of all the Upanishads, of all the scriptures, and not just the Upanishads, the Vedas also. Vedas is the Brahman part, the Upasana part, and the Gyan part. Gyan part is called Vedanta or Upanishads. But he took everything together and he said, how can I present it as in essence? And he gave it as the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is, when we read Bhagavad Gita, it says Upanishad Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. So it is the essence of all the Upanishads. That is the status of Bhagavad Gita. It is the creme de la creme of all the Upanishads. Icing on the cake. See, this is Bhagavad Gita. Then in the 36th verse he says, ते त्रिवर्गाचा अणुआरू आडव निघाला जो अपारू तो महाभारत प्राकारू भोवता केला माझी आत्मज्ञानाचे एकवट दळवाडे झाडूनी चौखट घडिले पार्थ वैकुंठ संवाद कुसरी निवृत्ती सूत्र सोडवणिया सर्वशास्त्रार्थ पुरवणिया आवो साधिला मांडणिया मोक्षरेखेचा ऐसेनी करिता उभारा पंधरा अध्यायांत पंधरा भूमी निर्वाळलिया पुरा प्रासादू जाहला उपरी 16वा अध्यायो तो ग्रीव घंटेचा आवो सप्तदशु तोची ठावो पडघाणिये. He says, where are we? From this excavation became available many well-shaped stones of different shapes in the form of duty, that is dharma, wealth, artha, and passionate love, kama, and with these he built a big rampart in the form of Mahabharata, and in that he selected with great skill the polished stones in the form of the dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjuna relating to the knowledge of the self. So the entire, see, when we study Vedanta, 3 things we have to study. What is that? After you read the Prakaran Granthas in Vedanta, Prakaran Granthas are Vakya Vritti, Atma Bodh, Tattva Bodh, Vivek Chudamani, Panchadashi, etc. Bhaj Govindam, Nirvana Shatkam. All these are mainly Vivek Chudamani, Panchadashi, Atma Bodh, Tattva Bodh. These are the Prakaran Granthas. Prakaran Granthas are what? Prakaran Granthas are introductory scriptures, introductory texts in which what is the problem, what is the solution, that is being the student is being guided, and every now and then some verses from the Upanishads are introduced, because Praman is only Shruti. Praman is not Puran, Puran is not Mahabharata, Puran is not Santa Vachan. We take Sant also, masters also take Praman as the Shruti only. Shruti meaning the Vedas. Vedas are the Praman. So in this manner, Ved Vyas ji, he has given in this Bhagavad Gita itself. The word dharma, artha, kama, moksha is only just mentioned in the Upanishads. Here he has told you how to follow the dharma, what is artha, what is kama, and what is moksha. Everything is given in detail. With these he built a big rampart in the, where are we? Big rampart in the form of, where are we? In the form of the Mahabharata, and in that he selected with great skill the polished stones in the form of the dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjuna relating to the knowledge of the self. So the entire Bhagavad Gita is not to prove the authenticity of or validity of karma yoga, bhakti yoga, dhyan yoga, jnana yoga, etc. etc. No, that is not the purpose. People get lost in that only. Some say first six chapters tat, second six chapters tam, tvam, and tvam, and then tat, and the last six chapters asi. It is not to establish that also. We put it in that manner. Yes. Till fifth chapter karma yoga, sixth chapter dhyan yoga, seventh chapter to 12th chapter bhakti yoga, from 12th 13th chapter to 16th 18th chapter jnana yoga. You can go into this intellectual gymnastics, but if you have lost the plot that the whole Bhagavad Gita is told so that we, as we are reading through that, our vision transforms. Vision will transform only when our convictions are changed. When it will only happen when we are at one ment with the Bhagavad Gita and we understand the Bhagavad Gita from the point of view of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. And what is Bhagavan Shri Krishna doing? He is, in his entire life, he knew he was Parabrahma Paramatma. Yet he played the game of Ras Leela. He played the game of killing the Kamsa. He played the game of a great statesman between Kaurava and Pandavas. He became the charioteer of the Arjun himself. All that is doing, it's a game for him, because he who knows he is Parabrahma Paramatma, he is Brahman, for him there is none outside of him. Everything is he alone. Ramana Maharshi knows he is Parabrahma Paramatma. But sometimes he used to be in silence, sometimes he used to speak. Nisargadatta Maharaj, he knew he was the reality. He used to speak. So also many other Mahatmas. So also Krishna Bhagavan. He knew what his essential nature is. He never got divorced from that. Yet he played the game, because that is what the purpose of that incarnation was. It's a Leela. See? With great skill, the polished tones in the form of the dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjuna relating to the knowledge of the self. So Bhagavad Gita must be studied with a view to know the self, not to establish whether Karma Yoga is better or Bhakti Yoga is better or Dhyan Yoga is better or Jnana Yoga is better. No, that is not the purpose. Then we have lost the plot. That is not the purpose at all. Then using the plummet in the form of renunciation and taking the help of other religious texts, he fixed the layout of the temple. On this cleared ground, the temple building was constructed with 15 stories in the form of 15 chapters. The chapter 16 provided a dome on the top of the temple. So till, what is that? 15th chapter. What was the 15th chapter? You remember? Purushottama Yoga, the supreme, the yoga of the supreme person. After having told the supreme person, then Daivi Sampatti, yoga of the Daivi Sampatti, I think, and then the Trigunat, going beyond the yoga of the three gunas, 17th. So here he says, in the 16th chapter provided a dome on the top of the temple, while chapter 17 was the last one, Shraddha, the yoga of Shraddha, that without Shraddha your mind will never settle down on the focus that you have set for yourself. While chapter 17 furnished a round frame for building the pinnacle thereon. See, 17 tattvas are there. What are they? Five elements, five organs of perception, five organs of five organs of action, five organs of action, five organs of perception, five Panchamahabhut, that makes it 15, and Manabuddhi, 17 elements. Remember, somewhere we studied, some people say they are only 8, some people say it is 7, some people say it is 9, some people say it is 11. Here it is taken it as 17. As I told you somewhere at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita also, and in Ishavasya Upanishad, it seems as if every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 18 chapters of the Ishavasya Upanishad are 18 verses of the Ishavasya Upanishad, 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. Then continuing from the, where are we? 41st verse. तया हि वरी अष्टादशु तो अपैसा मांडला कळसु उपरी गीतादिकी व्यासु ध्वजे लागला म्हणवनी मागील जे अध्याये ते चढते भूमीचे आये तयाचे पुरे दाविता हे आपुल्या अंगी झालया कामा नाही चोरी ते कळसे होय उजरी तेवी अष्टादशु विवरी साध्यंत गीता ऐसा व्यासे विंदाणिये गीता प्रासादु सोडवणिये आणूनी राखिले प्राणिये नाना परी एक प्रदक्षिणा जपाचिया बाहेरोनी करितीयया एक ते श्रवणमिषे छाया सेवितीययाची. He says that then sage Vyasa set up securely the pinnacle in the form of chapter 18 and unfurled the flag of the Gita on it. After building the temple, only then the Kumbh Abhishek is done, or the flag is unfurled on the top of the dome. So all the previous chapters from the floors one over the other, their completion being indicated by the present chapter. It is similar if you have been to the Tanjavur temple, the Brihadishwara temple, if you have been there. And those who have been there, then you will understand what I am saying. There is no cement or any material used to stick the stones together in that entire temple. It's a huge temple, very high. The Gopuram is almost 100 feet. But the entire thing is built by placing the stones one on top of each other. It has its own science. And how are they kept there? A 2 kilometer, excuse me, a 2 kilometer ramp was created. I don't know how many hundreds of years ago. A 2 kilometer ramp was created. Huge one. And the elephants pulled this huge 40, 50, I don't know, 100, I can't remember now, 100 tons of one single piece of stone. And it was brought, and the elephants pulled it, and the gopuram is like this, and the stone comes and sits. The moment stone sat on it, everything fell into its place. Nothing moves after that. Every rock is locked in position all the way down to the ground floor because of the weight of the round on the top. Google it, you can see what I am talking about. Similarly, when the flag is unfurled on the top of the temple, means everything is in its place. The deity has been installed, the building is constructed, nothing is left over now, left to do. So all the previous chapters from the floor one over the other, their completion being indicated by the present chapter. This pinnacle testifies that the temple is finished and nothing remains to be done. So this 18th chapter gives a clear exposition of the Gita from beginning to the end. It is the essence of chapter 1 to what? Chapter 1 to 17. It's as if the essence of each chapter is being restated in the 18th chapter, recapped in the 18th chapter, revisited in the 18th chapter. Thus sage Vyasa skillfully completed the temple in the form of the Gita and has come to the rescue of all beings in every way. Because Gita is applicable to every type of person. If you are you don't believe in God and you believe in work is worship, read chapter 2, 3, 4. You will be successful. If you are a devotee, read the chapter 10, 11, 12. You will be successful. If you want to know what death is, read chapter 8. If you want to know, what is the heart of the Bhagavad Gita, read verse 4 and 5 of the chapter 9. You will come to know. Mahi tatamidam sarvam. So for every type of mind set, they can find what is suitable to them in Bhagavad Gita. But one must not go, I am only a karma yogi, I am only a bhakta yogi, I am only a dhyana yogi. No. You take the total position of Lord Sri Krishna. Everything has its place, and at the same time nothing is required. Why? Nothing is required. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasa. Efforts must lead to effortlessness. Desire must lead to desirelessness. Sadhana must lead to sadhana-lessness. Then alone abidance will happen. All sadhana is happening only in ignorance. You are doing sadhana only because you think you don't know yourself. But you are always yourself. But who I am, the correct identity is not there. Either it is Gaunatma or it is Mithyatma. Mukhyatma is. पता नहीं, I understand, but it's not clicking, man. Because you are so obsessed with Mithyatma and Gaunatma. You are so obsessed with the virtual roles that you are playing and the illusory role called the Jivatma. How can Mukhyatma, which is the substratum, the base, how can it reveal itself? So when I say sadhana must lead to sadhana lessness, which means you are as you are. Nothing needs to be done to be, because you are always. Because you don't accept yourself, therefore you want to do something. Karma, action, is the grandchild of ignorance. Avidya, kama, karma. Ignorance of self. Because you are not accepting yourself to be the all inclusive reality, which is always Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swarup. You are not accepting yourself to be that. Not accepting is equal to ignorance. Then ignorance gives a desire. Then desire prompts activity. So, Sage Vyasa has come to the rescue of all beings in every way. Whatever your disposition, you will find some way in order to further your journey. And some people who understand the whole scheme, they transcend. Thus, some walk around the temple by reciting the Gita, while others take shelter in the shade and hear the Gita recited. Some people, they only recite Gita. They don't want to know the meaning. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha. Like if you go to the ashrams, they chant 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita before they eat food. But they are chanting Bhagavad Gita. Urdhvam moolam adashakam ashwatam prahurarayam achanasiyasagani yastam veda vedavita. And they want to quickly finish it off because their attention is not on the Purushottama Yoga. Their attention is not on the Supreme Person. That is their essential nature. Their attention is on the food. That they quickly finish this 15th chapter and let me attack the food. So what is chanting of Bhagavad Gita going to bring to you? Yes, it will help, no doubt. It will. You are less of a problem to the rest of the world because you are busy chanting. It will put your mind to calm. Some enjoy while chanting, they go to sleep. Well, very good. So here it is told, some people chant, some walk around the temple by reciting the Gita, while others take shelter in the shade. Some are lazy. They don't want to chant the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, too much work. My God, 18 chapters every day, they start calculating. Swamiji, how much time does it take? It takes about 2.5, 3 hours. 3 hours every day I have to chant Bhagavad Gita. Arey yaar, 3 hours mat karo. Chant one chapter every day. One chapter every day. Can you send me a recording, Swamiji? I will listen to your voice. Or then as I go Google, there are many people who are doing it. Many houses you have heard that music box is there. That machine is chanting Om, Om, Om. Whole day dimag kha jata hai. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. They don't want to chant. Lazy fellows. They want the machine to chant. And machine can never realize. Machine can never purify. See, it's like getting all the pujaris or brahmanas and telling them do the havan and you do the havan. I'll pay the money, whatever is required. How much? $2,000. Okay, you pay do the havan. पर याद रखना, आई एम द यजमान, उस हवन का पुण्य मुझे ही आना चाहिए. ऐसे थोड़ा ना होता है. तुमको तुमको भी पापड़ बेलने पड़ेंगे. यू हैव टू ऑल्सो पार्टिसिपेट इन इट. Participation is not only by wealth. You have to sit and do the puja, man. Like I went to someone's house in Gujarat, Baroda. They are watching Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahuti, and Pujari comes, does the puja. They tell the bai to come and make the prasad. She has taken shower or no shower, God only knows. With what type of attitude she is making. But these ladies, the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law, they are watching TV. Early morning, 9 o'clock. Spirituality cannot be practiced in proxy. Cannot be done in proxy. So while others take shelter in the shade and hear the Gita, oh, satsang was so wonderful. So it was the elixir of Shravan, ecstasy of Shravanam. Someone chant, ऊर्ध्वमूलमधःशाखम् अश्वत्थं प्राहुरव्ययम्. And the verse goes on. Oh, it sounded so well. It sounded well. How has it helped you? It's just a temporary joy that you are getting. It's okay. So here Jnaneshwar Maharaj is saying, some walk around the temple by reciting the Gita, while others take shelter in the shade and hear the Gita recited. And then in the 46th verse, he says, Ekate avdhanacha pura vidapaud bhitara घेऊनी रिघती गाभारा अर्थज्ञानाच्या ते निजबोधे उरा उरी भेटती आत्मया श्रीहरी परिमोक्ष प्रासादी सरी सर्वाही आथी समर्थाचिये पंक्ती भोजने तळिल्या वरिल्या एकची पक्वाने तेवी श्रवणे अर्थे पठणे मोक्षुची लाभे. ऐसा गीता वैष्णव प्रसादू 18वा अध्याय कळसू विशदू म्या म्हणितला हा भेदू जाणोनिया. आता 17 पाठी अध्याय कैसेनी उठी तो संबंधू सांगो दिठी दिसे तैसा. He says from the 46th verse onwards, still others take the role of bitter leaves and a peace in the form of attention and enter the sanctuary of the temple in the form of the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. So he is telling you the different type of approaches to Bhagavad Gita. If you go to Alandi, some of you must have gone to Alandi. Alandi is where Jnaneshwar Maharaj's Samadhi is there. He is still sitting in Sanjeevani Samadhi 20-30 feet below. Still there. There is this tree, and there you will go. Oh, hundreds of people are sitting there and they are reading Jnaneshwari. They are reading Jnaneshwari. Only reading. Some are Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hari, Jai Jai Rama Krishna Hari, or they are chanting Jnaneshwara Mauli, Jnanadev Tukaram, Jnaneshwara Mauli, Jnanadev Tukaram, and they are going round and round, 1, 2, 3, every day 108. Some of them who have by-hearted the Jnaneshwari, they are chanting and going around the Samadhi of Jnaneshwar Maharaj. Yet there are others who are sitting there studying in depth, diving into the Bhagavad Gita, Jnaneshwari or Bhagavad Gita. Huh? In the form of knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. The last named means these those who are diving into the Bhagavad Gita get access to Lord Krishna through the knowledge of the self. But all of them get the same access to the temple of salvation. This is the beauty of Jnaneshwar Maharaj compared to the analysis which Adi Shankaracharya does. Here, more than knowledge, bhav is required. Bhav shuddhi is to be there. If bhav shuddhi is there, nothing is impossible. Bhav can be put together as the attitude plus the conviction plus the availability plus the exclusive focus plus the surrender plus the eagerness to merge, all this put together, and plus the gratitude, all this put together brings about that bhav. Bhav doesn't mean only crying. Crying is not bhav. You are going on an emotional roller coaster. Bhav is, you know what? When a person falls in love with their beloved, and a boy and a girl fall in love, they forget food, they forget sleep. Every moment they are thinking only about their lover, beloved. What can I do to please the other? Every moment they will send some message. Silly laughter, eyes are starry. And they forget everything. They are only waiting eagerly to be in the embrace of each other. Can't wait for the next day to come. They will be chatting on phone or on WhatsApp or whatever late till night. And then they go to sleep and get up quickly. Other times they will never get up. But because they are in love, they will get up and they will be there at the bus stop to catch the same bus or the same train. See? With the worldly people, with our children, with our husband or wife or parents, we can do all this. But have we ever done it for the Lord? Is that urgency to be one and merge into the Lord Krishna, is it there in our heart? Where we forget everything in this world. No undue attention to parents or friends or hunger or thirst or our time, my space, nothing. What is motivating is the embrace of the beloved. With that urgency, if we approach Bhagavad Gita, फिर मजा आ जाएगा. देखो, that bhav is more important. So whether if that bhav is there while you are chanting the Bhagavad Gita, if that bhav is there when you are doing the pradakshina, or you are listening, and that Krishna alone is the Purushottama, Uttama Purusha, the one without a second. Are we recognizing him to be our essence while we are studying Bhagavad Gita, or we are just collecting information? That was very nice, very interesting chapter. Introduction is very, very commendable by Jnaneshwar Maharaj. Are we here to judge Jnaneshwar Maharaj? Are we here to give validity to Jnaneshwar Maharaj? Or are we here to dive into ourselves, taking the support of the words of Jnaneshwar Maharaj on Bhagavad Gita? The last name get access to Lord Krishna through the knowledge of the self, but all of them get the same access to the temple of salvation. First I told you that it is just chanting is not necessary, just going around is not will not get you there. But when approached with bhava, then whatever you practice, it will take you to the salvation, to merge into the Lord Krishna. In a dinner given by a rich person, all those seated at the head or at the end of the row get the same kind of sweet dish. In the same way, all attain liberation by hearing, by reciting, or knowing the meaning of the Bhagavad Gita. See? But it has to be done with bhava. And how do you know bhava is working? That your attitude is working? Your individuality will keep dissolving. You become reaction proof, reactionless. You become guilt free. You become expectation free. So no regrets and no anxiety. And thus you become fearless. Fearless is another name of Atma. It is fearless. In the same way, all attain liberation by hearing, by reciting or knowing the meaning of Bhagavad Gita. So as this Bhagavad Gita, as this Gita is the temple sacred for the devotees of Vishnu, and the 18th chapter is its pinnacle, I have made this distinction deliberately. Now I shall explain to you how this chapter is linked with the previous chapter, the 17th chapter. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Just a few moments. Hari Om.
हरिओम स्वामी जी.
हरिओम स्वामी जी.